Also guys, welcome to this video where I interview another expert on their field and their industry, and I'm really excited because today, again, I've got another very special guest. I'm looking forward to asking him some questions today, and I'm going to introduce him now. So he is a visual storyteller through photography and video. He helps businesses and individuals create visual content, and this is whether it's in a single image or a documentary representation of their day. And he also works with clients to create visual impact. So I'm pleased to welcome to this interview Gary Fernon. Gary, how are you doing, mate?
Not too bad, buddy. Not too bad. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. So, Gary, visual storyteller. I haven't seen this before, and I think this is a very interesting topic, actually. So, if you could just, for people watching, people listening to this interview, if you could just tell us a bit more about yourself and just tell us what visual storytelling is.
The reason I started saying or using the term visual storyteller is because everyone has a camera in their pocket, in their mobile phone, and the word photographer has been used and is continually being used all the time by people who aren't particularly photographers. And I say aren't particularly because with any creative art form, it's a subjective matter. So for me, it would be wrong for me to say that person's not a photographer, even though they take a snap and run a filter over it. If that's what they like to do and other people like that style, then why aren't they a photographer? And one of the other things I had as well is every time someone asks me, what do you do? So, oh, I'm a photographer. The default response was, do you do weddings? Every time, do you do weddings? Okay, so how do I get away from that? Because if I say, yes, I do, that's all that they can remember. If I say, no, I don't, all they can remember is, well, he doesn't shoot weddings. But they don't remember what I do shoot. So I spun it by saying, rather than saying I'm a photographer, because that's what everybody says, I said I'm a visual storyteller through photography and video. And just by using I'm a visual storyteller, straight away, they take a step back and go, oh, what's that? And then I add through photography and video. And then I can talk about the photography and video stuff that I do, and I can put in their minds what I want them to remember. So that was the idea behind visual storyteller.
And that's good, because just like we were saying just before we started, you were talking about being a breath of fresh air. You use that term, and I think a visual storyteller then is a breath of fresh air, because like you say, if you say a photographer, everyone these days seems to be a photographer. But actually, when you say visual storyteller, it's like, even when you say that, that's the question I asked you, what is that? It creates interest, it creates intrigue.
Absolutely. And there's nothing new about photography. It's been around for many, many years. But with anything, especially in today's age when we've got access to the internet, where we can share content globally at the touch of a button, it's how do you set yourself apart from everybody else? And if it's not through your images, it has to be through your words or your actions.
Great
so
stuff.
As long as you can sort of think about, if it's not the visual aspect, what am I doing, what am I portraying, and what am I saying? And if you can, I keep doing that, it's almost like a triangle. Yeah. So as long as you've got the three, either two of the three working together, I think you stand a good chance of becoming noticed.
And so this is almost like marketing 101. It's when the whole world is going, everybody else seems to be going right. You want to be going left. Is that right?
Absolutely. But one of the things that always sticks in my mind is I read a book by James Caan, the entrepreneur, not the actor. And he was saying I can't remember the title of his book, but there was one thing that sort of stuck with him, and it's also stuck with me. His dad told him, observe the masses and do the opposite. And that parallel, that line in his book stuck with me. And that's what I tried to do. And that's what I continue to try to do. I will observe what everybody are doing. And then I will say, well, how can I do it the same but different?
Okay. So what's your advice for somebody then who right now, let's say, you know, they're stuck with their marketing, they're not sure which way to go with it, and they see everybody else going right, but they're not sure how to go the opposite way. What do they need to be doing to start breaking away from the crowd?
I think the biggest thing, first of all, is to know what it is that you want to do. When I first started out, like probably everybody, I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I was trying to find my way, and I didn't know really what direction I wanted to go in and what subjects I wanted to photograph. I think the biggest hurdle is overcoming that and saying, yes, I want to photograph the people. I want to photograph pets or babies or children. Just choose. You don't have to choose just one. You can choose a couple of fields, but decide on what they are, and go for it. And then once you've got that, try and forget what everybody else is doing, because there's always going to be somebody who probably starts after you who has success quicker, or it might be that somebody starts at the same time but you start to overtake them. The important thing is just to stay true to your path. Know what you want to do, know what you want to achieve, and just stay on that path.
Okay, so work out what it is that where you're going, what it is that you want, and just stay focused.
Stay focused. I've got all my social media channels. Some posts on there get more engagement than others. Some get very, very little. I don't let that bother me. I'm not counting the likes, the shares, and the comments. That doesn't bother me. I put out what I like and what I think is sort of a good representation of me and my work, and that's good enough for me. Like I say, it's a subjective field. So if somebody doesn't like it, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over that, because I know there will be somebody who does. But the important thing for me is, it was Chase Jarvis said, "Shoot what you love what you shoot." Or at least I think it was him. That's certainly where I heard it. Is shoot what you love and love what you shoot. And again, it's another little quote that kind of sits in the back of my mind. As long as I enjoy the process and what it is that I'm photographing, it doesn't matter what other people think. It's about what I get enjoyment from. Because if I don't enjoy it, it becomes work, and nobody likes work, do they? So it's, you know, as long as I'm enjoying it. It's going to sound a bit cliche, but there's that saying, isn't it? Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. It's cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah,
it's so true.
I agree, and there were times in my life where I absolutely loved what I was doing, and it was so easy to get out of bed, go and work. It didn't feel like work because I was loving it. And then there are times where I just haven't felt connected or passionate about what I'm doing. And to get out of bed in the morning then becomes such a struggle, and it feels like, whilst it feels like work, there's so much resentment around it as well. So I really agree with that point. Yes, it's cliche, but like you said, it is the truth. And people really need to align themselves with what they love doing. So one thing I wanted, going back to younger Gary, and connecting the dots. What was the journey? What were the stepping stones to you becoming a storyteller through photography, through video?
Yeah, I mean, it all started where I had a job. I was working, and I had nothing really to do in my spare time. Being single, I was just kicking around the house thinking, "Oh, what do I do?" So I decided to give photography a go. I picked it up. I've always had cameras as a kid and sort of loved it, but it was very much kind of point and shoot then. So there was nothing creative around what I was doing. It was just I was just really sort of documenting what was around me. And I thought, Joe, I'm going to buy myself a camera, and I'm just going to mess around. I'm going to see what I can do. And it's just kind of built from there. So what started off as something to fill my time became quite a serious hobby. And anybody who gets into sort of photography or video will realise that it's not a cheap hobby. Kit isn't cheap. But yeah, over time, I've accumulated pieces of kit. I've sold equipment in order to buy new equipment, which is a big tip to anybody, especially starting out. Don't go and buy everything. One of the ways, and I still do it today, is I try to have just a small set of kit that I can go to. If I need anything fancy, or if I need something that I haven't got, I just hire it. You can hire it by the day or over the course of a weekend. It's not expensive, and it's a much cheaper way of doing it. Even if you're trying out new pieces of kit, hire it first. Play with it. Spend a few days just playing with it, learning how it feels and how to operate it. If you like it, then yeah, go and buy it. But what you don't want to do is go and buy a sort of £1,000 camera, and after a weekend go, oh, I don't really get on with this because you're £1,000 down. It just doesn't make sense. So I try not to sit on too much equipment. I only sit on really what I need. Everything else is either hired, or if I've got stuff kicking around, I'll sell it in order to fund another bit of kit, or sort of just pump into advertising and self-promotion, really. So I try not to spend too much. I try not to spend money I haven't got, basically, which is it's quite an easy thing to fall into with anything. If you're starting out, you'll just keep spending and spending and spending, and before you know it, your credit card's maxed out, and you're thinking, oh, how do I explain that one? So yeah, so it started off as the hobby, and it kind of went from there, and it's just gradually sort of built. And going back on what I said, yeah, to start with, I was thinking, I always put it out thinking, I hope people like it. What happens if they don't? And then over time, I've just gone, who cares? Who cares what people think? Because I love what I'm doing, and I love the process. The important part is I love the process as well. Yes, the final image is the cherry on the cake, but it's that journey, it's the process to get into that final image or final video. That's the part that I really love.
Awesome. I think something you said there is really, really important. And there was a change there, and you said that there was a point where you just didn't care, and you just wanted to put it out there. That was what you loved doing. So what was the trigger? What was the reason for that? I don't care what people think. I just want to do what I love.
The point came when I said to myself, if nothing comes of this, will I still enjoy taking the photos and producing the video? And when the answer was yes, it was at that point I said to myself, well, it doesn't matter then. It doesn't matter whether this takes off or not, because if it doesn't, I'll be a weekend warrior, and I'll just go out with the camera and do videos and photos at weekends. I'll sit up of an evening in a weekday, just sort of messing about, tinkering with them and editing them, and I'll go get a job, and that'll be my thing. And it was at that point where I thought, yes, I love it, irrespective of what people think of it, and I will continue to do it. So that was the turning point, really.
So the message there then is, if people are worried about what people think of them, the reception they'll get for their work, do they need to ask themselves that same question? Will I still do this if it doesn't take off? Is that the question they need to be asking themselves? Absolutely.
If they don't enjoy the process, and they don't enjoy they just enjoy if all they're interested in is that final image, my advice to them is go take the photo and then pay somebody to edit it and make it look glossy and glam, if that's what they're interested in. And then they can say, oh, that's my work. That's up to them. For me, it's the process from start right through to finish. And that's where I get the enjoyment from. And it's like I say, if you're not enjoying it, probably something that you may want to reconsider.
Interesting. Okay. So Gary, what's been some challenges in your life, some obstacles that you've come up against? And they've really been significant in your life, and it's taken you a huge amount of mindset and persistence maybe some resilience as well to get through them. What have those moments been, and how did you overcome them?
It kind of all comes back to the same thing. So when I started out, I kind of almost, I fell into the same path as everybody else. So, for example, with wedding photography. Now, whilst I do cover weddings, and I do take wedding photography, I don't do the traditional wedding photos. I am a visual storyteller. My enjoyment comes from documenting that entire day. So it's a lot of candid stuff. It's a lot of natural reactions, and it's all natural moments, which I think make for better images, better photos, and better memories. But when I first started out, it was very much a case of, well, if I do weddings, I have to do the traditional stuff. I have to do the, let's set low lights up and do some glam shots, and let's do the candid stuff. And every sort of area that I've gone into, I've fallen into that same trap. I said, well, this is how I've seen it being done, so that's what I must do. And again, it was that moment where I said, but that's not who I want to be. That's not the work that I want to be producing. Why do I want to be like everybody else? Albeit with my own spin on it, but why do I want to be like everybody else? I want to be me. I want to be the first-rate version of me and not a second-rate version of somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You want to be you. And I think, especially now in a world of social media where everyone seems to be living the life that we want. And we're always focused on what everybody else is doing. And I think that really creates this, that's the word I'm looking for, almost a mask. We want to be living somebody else's life, and we're not staying true to ourselves. So it's important.
Well, this kind of falls in nicely with the sort of the whole documentary stuff that I do. You say, so we live very much vicariously through other people. If we didn't, there wouldn't be as many reality TV shows on the air as there are. We love to be or put ourselves in the lives of others. So certainly from a business perspective, by bringing a photographer in just to document a typical day, you're allowing your client base a little glimpse into what it's like to be a part of your business and how you operate and things like that. And we're human beings. We love it. We love to be nosy, don't we? We love to have our face pressed against the glass, going, "Oh, what's going on in there?"
That's why Facebook Lives, things like that, are so successful, because it is instant. There's no BS around it. It's just instant. You see into their life. You see what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah. There are no smooth transitions. If I walk into the wall, I walk into the wall.
yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. That's cool. So, tell me, what is the outcome? So, the clients that you're working with, you're doing the documentation, you're taking the candid shots, awesome stuff. What is the outcome for the client? Why is that important to have that process, have that documentation?
Again, it comes down to, firstly, what that individual, what that business want to achieve. I think we'll all agree that it's very much an oversaturated market. So you need to get your shop front, your business or you in front of your clients, and you need to be front of mind. So one of the things, again, by bringing somebody like myself into the business and documenting the day or a particular event or something like that, is, again, it allows people who know your business, are clients, or people who have been, that could possibly potentially be again, and also potentially new clients, they get a glimpse into what it is that you do and how you do it. People will invest in people before they invest in businesses, which is why I think personal brand is such a huge thing. If you are liked, people are more likely to do business with you rather than with the business. I mean, you only have to go uptown and you see in the private sector, if somebody moves from company A to company B, a lot of the clients that they deal with will go with them because they're not loyal to the company, they're loyal to that individual because they work with that individual. Okay, that individual works under the banner of company A, but when they move to company B, the client doesn't care which company they're paying because they want to deal with that individual. That's who they've built the relationship with. And that's the important thing behind the documentative style of photography that I sort of bring to businesses. And I think that anybody out there that's looking to do something or to get into photography, by doing the documentative stuff, I think they stand a good chance of building a business base by doing or incorporating that style of photography into their skill set.
So it's really about creating trust as quickly as possible. People buying from people. So if you're putting a documentary, you're putting the photography together. I can see into your business. I can see your values, how you operate before the sale, rather than the sale buying into you and then finding out how it all works. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And earlier we were speaking. It was just me and you speaking. We weren't recording. You were talking about adding value and why that's so important. So, just for the people listening, what's your view on adding value? What does it mean, and why is it so important?
You have to kind of remove yourself from the equation, and you have to listen to what it is that the client is asking you, or what they're asking of you. You may have your own thought process on what it is that they need, and it's not our job as content creators to say, this is what you've asked for, but this is what you should do. Because again, like I say, it's subjective. If we work together with clients, it's all about how you word it as well. So if someone says to me, this is what I would like, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, but I know that doesn't work, I'm not going to say, well, that doesn't work. I'm going to say, have you considered doing this? And throw a few ideas. There might be something that they've never even thought of, or something that they're not considered. But by working with a client, you position yourself, you show that you are more experienced, or you're experienced in what it is that you're doing. So, and you're not just come along, I'll take a photograph and there you go, because anybody can do that. I think you have to be able to say to a company, you have to be able to walk into a company and say, look, I understand what it is that you're going for. Have you considered doing this? And this is the reason why I'm saying this. So, for example, I know that I'm going back to the sort of documentative side of it. You say, well, why would they sort of choose a photographer to do that? And the value that you bring is, yes, anybody in the company who's got a camera could probably do it, but because it's not their love, and it's just something that they fancy doing, you're not going to get the return on it, because they'll take a photograph today, and in about a month, 2 months time, they say, oh yeah, I've done that photograph. Well, I think I've done that photograph. I haven't really edited it, but there you go. By bringing in a photographer who that is their job, that's their work, you get the turnaround quicker. Yeah. You can then start pushing it out quicker, and you get more return on your investment. And that's quite a key thing as well. And I put out a 37-second video, sort of just a quick sort of graphic, really, on explaining very sort of basically the ROI of bringing a photographer into your business. And so when you're doing sort of the documentative side of it. So you bring me in for a typical day. I will spend the entire day with that company or with that individual, and I would just document the entire process. I can come away with a very large number of photographs. For a year's content, you only need 365. If you're going to post once a day, you need 365 photos. That's all you need. Now, if we say that people aren't going to post over the weekends, you only need 261. And if you're going to post twice a day, it works out to be 130.5. Let's call it 131 photos to give you 131 days of content if you're posting twice a day. And if you're posting 3 photos a day, you're going to need 87, I believe. 80 gives you 87 days worth of content. How you use those photos is also important. And I'm happy for anybody to write this off. If they're going to pitch to somebody, by all means, use these numbers, because I believe it's quite a good way of breaking down to somebody, this is why you should employ me. How you use those images is important. Going back to what we said when we said people live vicariously through us or through others and our businesses and companies. If you can take some almost comedy shots where you get people laughing and joking in sort of the kitchen area or just messing around, you can start talking about how much of a friendly business you are, or even just add that and then add a joke. It shows that you're human. If you're a manufacturing company, for example, or there's a particular tool being used, you can talk about that tool, and you can talk to your viewer and say why this tool is the best tool that they could get. Not necessarily sell, but just talk about that tool, and then and we can offer this. You're not selling, but you kind of are. And then there's just the day-to-day is about the business. It's about positioning yourself as a market leader, really. So I did what we've been talking about. I did for Kendricks of Rochford barbershop, and it was literally a case of part of the series of photos I took for them was of, funny enough, barbershop. Took them cutting hair and combing hair, and my advice to them was that they post that particular type of image and then talk about what they're doing. Now, it might not be of any interest to you or me, because we're not barbers, but to the barbering world, talking about the comb you're using, the types of scissors you're using, what it is that you're doing, the type of cut, to them it will resonate. So you're trying to capture not just the people that you're selling to, but also to the people who are in your industry, and you're positioning yourself as a leader within your industry, but also somebody who people remember and say, I remember that company. Hang on, let me have a quick look. Yeah, here they are. So there's a lot of ways you can use the photos and the videos to promote yourself to a very broad market and spectrum of people. It doesn't have to be, always have to be a sell.
Yeah. So what I'm learning there is that for you, adding value is really about giving people options. So people might I want this is what I want, but working with them to achieve that, but also giving them an option, and an informed option, and showing that there are more routes that they can go down. But also the other thing is education, helping people, giving people information, giving people knowledge. So again, they can come back to making a better buying decision, a better decision with their customers, whatever that decision is, but they're more knowledgeable. They have up-to-date information. They know they know the option that they need to choose because they have all the information available to them. So that is that in essence what you were saying?
Absolutely, yeah. The more informed we are, the more likely we are to do a certain thing or to buy a certain product. And it's no different from when we're sitting down and talking to the clients and getting their initial thoughts and then sort of throwing it back. Absolutely. The more informed they are, the more likely they are to say, this is the person that I want to take care of me and my photography, my video needs.
Awesome, man. So what's your vision for the future? What's Gary's big future vision? What are you trying to achieve?
For me, I could go one of two routes. I could go down the route of being the person who takes all your photos, takes all your videos, and then have to fight with hundreds of thousands of other people who are doing the same thing. Or the route that I've decided to go down is the more the creative space route. So I appreciate that I'm not the only person out there that's doing what I'm doing. And I can't do everything. There is plenty of work out there for everybody. So if anybody's looking to get into it, don't think, oh, but it's massively oversaturated. It doesn't matter. Again, it comes down to subjectivity. If you love what you're doing, other people will love what you're doing, and there's room for everybody. But my goal, looking into the future, is to have basically a creative space, a space that all creatives can basically call home. And sort of my vision at the moment is to have a space large enough that the main space itself will be multi-use. So it could be a photography studio. If somebody wanted to do like a pop-up gallery, we can do that. We can facilitate videos and things like that. It's just a large space that we can mold to suit whatever people want. But what I'd also like to have as well is enough room, or a couple of separate rooms really, to have a YouTube room and a podcast room. So it's all kitted out. People don't then need the added stress of rent, overheads, and trying to maintain a space of their own. They just come along and they'll just pay for it for the amount of time that they need it. I'll worry about all the rent and rates and stuff like that. But it's also a place where any creative can come, they can feed off other creatives, collaborate with people, and basically just, it's a place that people can come, and it's a space that they can use. And I think that's important because photography is quite a lonely business. You see here, this is my space. It's a cabin at the bottom of my garden. Now, this particular part of the cabin, I had to fight tooth and nail with the wife and to say, no, I need a space. I don't want all of it. I just want a space.
The man cave.
And you can probably say, it's really warm here. It's like a sauna. So I've got a nice sort of silky skin going on here. So you have to sort of forgive the sweat. But this space here is 2 meters by 3. It's not a huge space, but this is the space where I do all of my work, and it's just me. Now, I am quite an introvert person anyway, so I can sit down, be creative, and start to sort of really sort of gather my thoughts and become and write down a creative process. I don't need to be around a lot of people, but there are times where I do need that. So although I'm predominantly an introvert, there is an extrovert side of me that I need to be around people. It doesn't even have to be photographers. I mean, for me, if I'm really struggling, one of the best ways that I find for me to clear my mind and gather my thoughts is to just go for a walk. It could be around the block, or I mean, I live in Rayleigh. I'm not too far from Grove Wood. I would just go for a walk through the wood, and that time just away from this space is sometimes enough for me to go, I've got it. I now know what I was stuck with. I've got over that hump. I've got it. There is that element as well where I need to be around people. Like I say, it doesn't have to be photographers. It could be anybody. And just, I'm a sucker for people. I love to people watch. And just by watching people, I can say, that's just giving me a great idea. So yeah, there is that side side of me. I think it's true of everybody. Not everybody is introvert or wholly extrovert. I think we all have an element of both, albeit one normally outweighs the other. And that's what the space is, just a place where people can come and just sort of throw some ideas around, collaborate, build relationships with people, and hopefully it's a space that they'll feel comfortable in. But that's what I'm kind of going off on. But that's basically my thoughts for the future. That's where I would like to, what I'd like to achieve in the future, is just have that space for not just for me, but for everybody.
That's cool, and I like asking that question because I love hearing about what people's visions are, because on top of that as well, when people talk about their vision, they come alive and they're so passionate, and the way like you described it, in my head I can instantly see it, and I think that's what makes a powerful vision. Why is it important for people to have a big vision, to have that vision for their future?
It's a target. It is a target. Otherwise, what you'll find you'll do is if anybody's anything like me, my mind doesn't stop. It's constantly racing with ideas. I'm constantly jotting things down, thinking, yeah, gonna do that. It's only when I go back through either my notebook or the notes on my phone, and I've gone through and thinking, oh, yeah, I remember that idea. That was 3 years ago. Time goes past quite quickly. So I think by having that goal, that vision, whilst everything else is coming in, as long as you're still focused on that goal, you'll be able to take on everything else, and it won't be an issue. If you don't have the goal, you end up going this way, and then you're off that way, and then you pull yourself back, and then you think, all right, then you're going up, and then you're going down, you're all over the place. And I think you need to have some form of stability, just to keep your mind focused. There might be sort of 2 or 3 days, or even a week or a month, where you don't think about that and you're racing all over the place, because we don't know what's going on people's lives. Other things might be taking them away, and that's fine. Don't think that, oh, just because I haven't done it for a month, oh, that's it, I've blown it. You haven't at all. You probably needed that day, that week, that month to realign, and that's absolutely fine. But as long as you stick to what it is, to what your goal is, it's just a bump in the road. The fact that you haven't done it for a month, don't worry about it.
And that leads nicely onto our next question, because something I'm really passionate about is mindset. Gary, what's your mindset? How did you build that? How did you create the mindset that you have today?
I think it's come from a lot of personal experiences. You know, I've been that person where I've tried to do a million things. I've been that person that sat down and thought, I can't be bothered today. And just over time, I listen to podcasts. If I'm in the car, very rarely do I listen to the radio. It's always a podcast. And I listen to people, and I realise it's not unique to me. I think everybody's going through the same thing, one form or another. People go through the same hurdles, and they have the same ups and the downs. And I think it's just by listening to other people, you sort of think, I think I'll be all right.
And you touched upon that, listening to other people. I like you said that, because as I said to you earlier, in interviews was where it started for me. I was listening to podcasts, watching on YouTube interviews with successful people, and they'd talk about their background, their stories. And there'll be stories where they just resonate and have just been through the exact same situation, and you're going, oh, it's not just me. Thank God for that. Other people procrastinate. Other people have gone through hard times. So you realize you're not on your own. And if they've overcome it, they got around that challenge, that obstacle, then it just made me realize that I could do it too. It just made me realize that it was possible. So that I like you said that. And then, it just made me realize that that's why listening to other people is so important, and it helps so much with your mindset. So awesome point. Who's been your biggest mentor? Who's been the biggest influence on your life?
I don't think I can narrow it down to just one one person or a small group of people. I think what I try to do is everybody who I sort of come across, or everybody who I listen to on, say, podcasts, or I watch on YouTube and things like that, is I try to take something away from every time that I interact with them. So whether that be through watching or through listening, and I just try to build. I very much try to have an open mind, and I try to be as positive as I can, even when I'm sort of feeling a little bit low. I always try to put a positive spin on it, and just sort of think, okay, where's the silver lining? Because things happen, and what might seem like a rough day, there is going to be a silver lining in there somewhere, and it's just about trying to sort of dissect what's going on and saying, but had that not have happened, I wouldn't now be doing this. So really, it's there's no one real individual. It's a culmination of a lot of people, some of whom I've never met. Again, it's people I've listened to or I'm watching on YouTube. I think, yeah, I like that. I like what you've said there, and it kind of resonates with me. And I just kind of take it away with me. I just kind of try to absorb all the sort of the good stuff from other people, and try to really put to one side all the negative stuff. And people talk about the sort of the more successful you get, the more trolls and hate that you get. Just ignore that. As far as I'm concerned, if people are trolling you and saying negative stuff, it's because you're doing the right thing, and they just don't like it. So just keep on doing it. That's how I kind of try to think of it.
Nice, awesome. So what are the biggest mistakes that you see out there in business that people are constantly doing?
Some of the things that I kind of see is there's this lack of responsibility, and what I mean by that is if somebody's sort of say, well, this is my problem. You see people say, well, that's not my remit. I go and speak to what's his face. When people should really be saying, and I think it's slightly different if it's you and it's your business, because it's your reputation on the line. But it's certainly part of the bigger businesses. I find rather than somebody saying, leave that with me, I'll find out the answer, they just fob you off. And then people feel sort of let down, and people feel a little, to say unloved. But if you're trying to retain that person and that person's business, you should be treating that individual like they are your only client. And that's one thing that certainly the larger corporations, they kind of lose touch with. And as a small business, it's something that I can't afford to lose touch with. Yeah. So each client needs to be treated as if they are my only client. And I think that's what people need to remember, whether you're a small or a large business, because without the clients, you don't have a business.
Awesome. No, good point. This is, you mentioned it, the big companies, they forget about their customers because it's suddenly they're so focused on the profit, the sales. And I've experienced is as well, where it's the internal customers, so the employees get forgotten about as well. Yeah. I think there's something to say for that as well. Not only as you grow, not only do you have to look after your clients, but you have to look after your employees as well. But that's a great mindset. You said you're a small business, you can't afford to not treat your customers like they're your only customer. It's a fantastic point, and I think for the people listening, they really need to write that down. They really need to take note of that and listen to that point. So just before we finish up, there's a couple of questions that I like to ask, and the first one is, who is somebody that you know that the people listening won't necessarily know, but they should?
I think certainly from a sort of a photography perspective, I listen a lot to Chase Jarvis, and his show is called Creative Life, and he interviews. He's a photographer himself, but he interviews a lot of people from different businesses, different walks of life, and it's just, I think, it's a good insight into understanding how other people think about things and their thought processes, and also how they've overcome certain issues, and sort of how they've fallen on hard times and how they've overcome hurdles and things like that. So if you haven't heard of, if nobody's heard of Chase Jarvis, I highly recommend that they kind of look him up, because some of the people that he interviews are quite inspiring.
Okay, awesome. Chase Jarvis. I haven't heard that name before. So that'd be good for me to look up as well. So thank you for sharing that. The other question is, what's a question that I could have asked that you haven't been asked before?
Cool. That's a very good question. I've never been asked that before. There you go. Wow. No, you caught me on the back foot there.
No, so what context? The reason I like asking that question, and there was a podcast I used to listen to with a guy called David Wood, and he always used to ask this question at the end, and I thought it was brilliant because the reason was it always drew out some more information, some more advice from that person that they necessarily hadn't talked about before. So in that frame of context, what is some advice or something that you wanted to say that you always kind of want to get off your chest and you want to talk about, that you think is important that people hear about?
I think the main thing is, especially in sort of today's society, where we can get so bogged down in other people's success or perceived success, especially if you're going through social media, and really it's kind of just to try and not block it out, but obviously be aware of it, because sometimes you look at these people and it gives you inspiration to do stuff or bits and bobs to your own work, but to not be consumed by the number of followers, the likes, the comments, the shares. I know I've kind of touched on it earlier. It's if people focus more on that, it's taken away from you focusing on what it is that you love to do. So for me, if I started to worry about how many likes or followers and things like that I have, I would never post anything, and I probably wouldn't create anything, because I'm thinking, well, what if it crashes and burns? You know, I've got all of these ideas sort of constantly coming into my mind. No, I jot it down because I think, yes, because that's what I want to do, and I can sort of visually see how I'm going to do it. And if I listened to the lack of engagement I sometimes get, or what I think I might get, I'd never do it. And the worst thing, I think, is having that regret. If I didn't do it, that regret of, but I wonder, what if I had? I'd rather do it and it crash and burn, and then for me to say, I gave it a go, and then move on to something else, than to live with the thought of, I wonder if that might have been the thing that projected me and set me apart from everybody else.
So say that phrase again. Say that phrase again, because I think that's the nail on the head when it comes to, people are so scared to put themselves out there.
The regret?
The regret, yeah.
Regret. Yeah, to go through your life and worry about what others think or what others are going to say, and that be the deciding factor of you saying, well, I'm not going to do it. For me, to have that regret of not doing it and listening to those people and not doing something, and then wondering if that could have been the one thing that set me off on the path to what I really want to be doing. So regret's massive for me. So again, it's trying not to listen to, and it's hard. It is hard because not only is it just people you don't know, but friends and family might also sort of say, what are we doing that for? Well, firstly, thank you for the vote of confidence. Appreciate that. But just trying to ignore that and doing it anyway. And if it crashes and burns, who cares? One of the things that people need to realize is they don't have to post everything. What you post is what you want people to see. That's what social media is. Social media are the posts that you want the people to see. You don't post the bits where you crash and burn, or where you make mistakes, or where you try something and it fails. So for whatever reason, people don't post that. Personally, I post that because it's so different to what's out there at the moment. Likelihood is people are going to go, I like this person because they're different. But people are worried about posting that because it makes them look silly. I think that's daft. But it's having that self-confidence to say, I don't mind making an ass of myself. And you just have to own it, don't you? So I tried something and it failed. But I may have failed, but look at the process. The process was right, just my execution was wrong. But then you come back, you reevaluate it, you come back and you say, yeah, I followed the same process, I tweaked it here, and look at the result. It's all about learning, and I think people should be sharing more of that side of them, because it's so different, because we only see the glitz and the glamour.
Yeah.
We need to see some of the sort of rough and the tumble stuff.
The realness of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the raw stuff that I think that we need to start producing more of if we are to sort of gain traction and come away and break away from what everybody else is doing. And again, it's observe the masses and do the opposite. Comes back to that every time.
And what a great place to what a great point to finish up on as well. I really like what you said. I think that is just people just need to listen to that end bit, because I think that's everything. That's awesome. So look, Gary, thank you so much for your time today. Look, where do people go if they want to get in touch with you? They want to work with you. They want to learn more about you. Where do they go?
I am pretty much at Gary Fernon on most of the social medias. I am more prolific on LinkedIn and Twitter than I am maybe on the other platforms. And again, another one actually, really certainly for sort of content creators. Whilst Instagram is a platform that we need to be using because it's designed specifically for really content creation and visual content, there's a lot of people on there. There's a lot of sort of woodland to cut through in order to be noticed. So what I've done is I still use my Instagram, but I've used it more of as I'm starting to use it now more as a behind the scenes look about what I'm doing, as opposed to the glitz and the glamour stuff. So I tend to be more LinkedIn and Twitter. People can find me on there, so I'd say at Gary Fernon. We're connected on LinkedIn. It's a slightly different type of post on LinkedIn because it is a business. It's a business Facebook, isn't it, really? So I try and gear my content towards helping people do things for themselves, but also to target photographers and things like that, saying this is what I think you should concentrate on. So it's for me, it's just a massive. I never sort of say work with me. It's all me giving. It's give on LinkedIn for me, and then sort of Twitter's a sort of a mixture of me doing that and just sort of talking about just general stuff. But they can certainly find me on on both those platforms, and I am on Instagram. Again, it's pretty much at Gary Fernon on everything. Or if they want to drop me an email, I'm quite happy to jump into emails as well. That's gary.fernon@photoreceptorcell.co.uk. I'll send you the correct spelling for that.
That's fine. What we'll do is all the handles for the social media, your email as well. We'll put that in the show notes so people can access that easily.
Wonderful.
Awesome stuff. Hey, thanks for your time. Love speaking to you. I know people watching this as well will enjoy that. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Gary.
No, absolute pleasure. I hope that it kind of brings some sort of value to your audience.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I love it. Awesome, man. All the best. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Bob. Take care.